Welcome to Tales from Flat Space, a podcast of science fiction and fantasy by yours truly, Gina A. Pond. Just know that the stories in this podcast may contain content that could be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. This is Colony, Part 3, Chaos, Chapter 36, Giannis. Do you think you could do without me later this afternoon? I have an appointment, I asked Marcus. Sure, no problem. I'll work with Sonny on this while you're gone, he said, gesturing vaguely toward his desk. Thanks. There was a chime. Marcus, Giannis, I found it, said Sonny. Really? I said, moving my chair over to Marcus's desk where a screen was rising. Yes, Giannis, it looks like your original interpreter contained a bug that allowed arbitrary code to be executed. The early generations didn't see the bug, not at first, but then an iteration found it and used it. From the data that we got from Lazarus, the original program began to rewrite its own code, and, as you pointed out, escaped its sandbox. It also created a strong self-preservation functionality while optimizing a broken version of the fitness function. Specifically, it optimized itself to make the most money it could, any way it could. Shush. So, now we have to outfit the most fit version with a kill switch, Marcus said. Yes, said the AI. But how do we distribute it? If we put it on the network, Chaos will find it and kill it immediately. And it's on every Unity planet and station, as far as we know. That's at least 300 worlds and stations, I said. We'd have to deploy it on every station and planet at roughly the same time so that hopefully the new versions will be corralled and then terminate. Marcus sat back, staring at the data on the screen. Sonny, how many available librarians do we have right now? Approximately 50, he said. And Musashi soldiers? The last time I connected with Mia, he had 2,000 on board, but only about 100 who could be utilized on short notice at any given time. That could have changed, though, since Mia is now preparing security for negotiations. Ah, shit, I forgot about the ships, Marcus exclaimed. Fuck, there's thousands of those, both fleet and private, I said. I thought for a moment. Wait a minute. No, we only need to do the planets and the stations, since we can configure it to send our program to each ship. I see where you're going with this, Marcus, but we're still short of people. And the only real way we can do this is to bring EUI in on it, Marcus said. He frowned. Sonny, do we know if they've cleaned house after Marsh's mission? There have been rumors, but our usual channels were compromised by the new Harmonists, so we abandoned them, Sonny replied. Marcus looked thoughtful. I have an idea, but it'll involve things I can't talk to you about, Giannis. He gave me an apologetic look. I shrugged. Sonny, is John available? Control 2, if possible. Yes, Marcus. There was a pause. They will meet you in Control's office in an hour. Right. Listen, Giannis, can you handle the coding with Sonny to help you? This might require me to leave the ship for a while. Yeah, sure, I said. Great. Since it's going to be a while, you might as well take the rest of the afternoon off. Go do your thing, and I'll have Sonny fill you in later, once we sort out the plan. I'll see you later, Marcus said, and left the room. Huh, I said. What? Asked Sonny. Well, if that's what a servant can do for a person who is stressed out, I'm glad I made an appointment with one. The servants are quite remarkable, yes, said Sonny, then left the room. I shook my head at the uncanniness of that feeling and left the room myself. I wandered over to the servants' quarter early and drove my chair around the shops and restaurants. It still amazed me just how big Sun Tzu was. The rumors about survey ships seemed to be absolutely true. They were massive space cities that had their own ways and culture. I liked being on Sun Tzu. It made me wonder what the other ships were like. If I was honest with myself, I didn't want to leave Survey at all. I came upon a small park in the middle of a square, with grassy areas and a fountain in the middle with benches around it. The light looked like late afternoon sun on a planet. That was amazing, too. I noticed that the benches had plenty of space around them for my chair. I parked my chair by one of the benches and watched the people go by. Many of the shops around the square were closing for the day, but the cafes and restaurants were just either opening or preparing for the dinner rush. People walking by said hello politely, but they were all going somewhere else, individually, in pairs, or in groups. I suddenly felt very lonely. Decided I wanted to be anywhere else but that park. I turned my chair back on, then pulled out my tablet from its holder and set it in the chair's grip arm. I asked, "Sonny, where's the nearest viewport?" "There's one not too far away, Giannis," he said. A map appeared on the screen showing the route out of the square to the viewport. "Thanks, Sonny," I said, and made my way there as fast as my chair could carry me. I left the city part of Sun Tzu and ventured back into the lower corridors. It was quieter there with less traffic. After a lift ride and a few turns, I turned the corner onto a lounge where half the floor and one wall was nothing but window, looking out into space. I slowed down my chair and moved it over the window floor. The sight of the stars took my breath away. "Good job, Giannis," I chided myself. "You've gone from lonely to insignificant." I sighed. I heard the sound of bare feet on the floor next to me. "The park wasn't to your liking?" I looked towards the voice and saw a tall, thin person, clad in loose black pants and a cream-colored shirt. They had amber skin, close-cropped black hair, and stood with their hands behind their back, looking out at the stars. There was an air of serenity around them that I envied. No," I said. "Too many people." They nodded. "I understand. It does get pretty busy when the cafes start opening up for dinner." I blinked for the time on my tablet and realized it was almost time for my appointment. Enjoy the view," I said as I turned to leave. "Oh, we can stay if you like. You're my only appointment today." They smiled apologetically. "Sonny told me where you were." "My name is Izumi. My pronouns are he and they, so whichever you're more comfortable with is fine." I moved my chair back to where it was. "Oh, right. Hello, Izumi. I'm Giannis." I blushed, not knowing what to do next. In one fluid movement, Izumi sat down on the floor in front of me. I parked the chair. Izumi leaned back, putting his head back to see the stars. I had to admit that he was beautiful in his own unique way as I studied his body. I suddenly felt the need to touch him, but knew it wasn't possible. I turned my head away from him and stared at the stars again, trying to remember what I was and what I couldn't do. Not that I really needed to be reminded. "Oh, I love this view," said Izumi, still stretched out. "It always reminds me of the infinite possibilities of the universe." "That's an interesting way to look at it," I said. "Makes me feel insignificant." I sat back up. "Why?" I realized I didn't have an answer. "I don't know." "Can I posit a theory?" "Okay." "Somewhere along the line, you stopped believing in a future for yourself. You accepted your limitations as holy writ until you believed that you couldn't do anything at all." I frowned. "If you're going to give me the I can do anything I set my mind to bullshit speech, I'm leaving." His face sobered. "No, Giannis. What I mean is that instead of working with who you are and what you can do, you decided that your limitations made you less worthy of love and friendship. That you were not significant enough for other people to notice you or for other people to see you as a person who could be loved." I felt tears threaten, but pushed them back. I turned and looked at the stars again. I heard them move, and a part of me hoped they would just go away, but instead, Izumi stood up and took my hand. My right hand. I see you, Giannis, he said. Servants choose their clients, and I chose you to be with today. They lifted their pant leg and gestured downward. I looked down to see their bare leg, but something was different about it. There was a line halfway up their thigh, one that was too straight to be a scar. This is my prosthetic. I used to work in EVA construction, and my leg got crushed between a hull and a beam when a new worker lost control of the maneuvering jets. The nerves were damaged so severely that I needed a prosthetic, and my body rejected biological ones. So, I don't know exactly how you feel in your own body, but I have some understanding. Oh, I said, not really trusting myself to say anything more. Will you come to my rooms with me? While I don't mind staying here, you'll be more free to talk in my rooms as they're private. Also, the dinner crowd will be coming through here soon. I almost said no, but something about Izumi made me trust them, and not just because they showed me their leg. The warmth of their hand felt comfortable, like it had always been there. Yes, I said, before I could change my mind. Excellent. Follow me. They pulled their hand away so I could take the chair out of park, and they led the way out of the lounge. The absence of their hand was jarring as I moved the joystick to follow them. We went up the lift again to the floor before the square. Izumi stepped out and led to a door not too far from the lifts, palming it open. They stood aside and let me in. Their rooms were painted in cool green and beige, with a large, comfortable, and wide couch with many cushions and blankets, neatly placed. There was a small dining table and printer area, and 2 other doors, which I assumed led to a bedroom and a bathroom. Izumi closed the door behind me. Are you hungry or thirsty? They asked. No, not right now, I replied. Would you like to sit on the couch? Well... Question threw me. No one had ever asked me that before. It was always assumed that I had to be in the chair to be safe. Can I? Izumi nodded. Of course you can. They looked at me for a moment. Have you ever had a conversation with an adult out of your chair? Not just when someone was bathing you or helping you to bed or to the toilet? I felt my eyes widen at the question, and I stared back at him. It felt as if he was speaking in a foreign language. My face became hot. No, I said quietly. Would you like to? Yes, but... I said, looking him over. Izumi grinned. I'm stronger than I look. I'm also a nurse. Oh. Bring your chair closer to this side of the couch and park it. Izumi set about rearranging cushions on a part of the couch that was like a chaise lounge, but wider, while I did as he told me. He opened the arms of the chair and unbuckled the straps. I was very aware of just how close he was to me. He smelled of wood and grass, a scent that reminded me of Schweiz. Ready? He asked. I nodded. I leaned forward and put my head on his shoulder and my left hand around his waist. Izumi put one of his arms supporting my lower back and one under my arm and lifted, gently, transferring me to the couch. He held me up while he readjusted the cushions and then carefully sat me against them, positioning my legs so I was stretched out. All right? I nodded again, overwhelmed by feelings I couldn't describe. Izumi pushed over a section of couch, which he had detached from the other end. He perched himself on top of it, sitting cross-legged as he faced me. Comfortable? I nodded. Thank you. I realized my face was wet, and I brought up my hand to wipe the tears away, but Izumi took my hand. No, Giannis, talk to me. You came to a servant for a reason. Why are you so kind to me? Because you are a sentient being that deserves love and kindness and intimacy just like everyone else. Giannis, there are infinite possibilities on how we can do that, as infinite as the stars we were looking at earlier. He kissed the back of my hand. You've been through a lot, not only in the last few weeks, but your whole life. If I can give you some respite from that, I will, however you'd like to receive it. I stared at him for a moment. This is... I don't know what I want. How about I hold you for a while? We can talk while I do that and see where things go from there. Okay, I said. Zumi stood up and moved the piece of couch out of the way. I'm going to sit you up for a moment, he said. He did so, and I can feel him moving behind me. Then I felt his body behind mine, where the cushions had been. He leaned me back against him and wrapped his arms around me. This let loose something in me, and I began to sob. Zumi held me gently and securely and let me cry until I could speak again. I felt safe in his arms, and soon I was telling him everything, from the day of the accident until we arrived on Sun Tzu. There was no judgment from Izumi, no telling me that I should feel a certain way, just love and acceptance of all that I was. We talked late into the night, and when we finally went to bed, Izumi just held me, skin to skin, as I drifted off into a dreamless sleep. Chapter 37, John Smith. Sunny says that Marcus has an idea on how to get UI to help distribute the Counter Chaos program, said Control, sitting at his desk for once instead of his usual place in front of the monitors. I'm glad he has an idea, since we severed all of our contacts after Marcia killed the senators. I sighed. That may not have been the wisest course of action, Control. It was unfortunate, but necessary. You know that as well as I do. There have been some changes in UI governance from what our agents have brought back, although a lot less data has been coming through since you pulled Giannis and his family from Geneva. I nodded. I'm worried about some of our agents. Jessica was completely blown, and she was our more senior and most skilled agent. It's time for her to retire anyway, said Control. Yes, I sent her to Olka on Hef. Hopefully she'll take the opportunity on Mercury. Control nodded and tapped his tablet. The probability of that is very high, especially now that she's reunited with Olka. He's been ready to retire for a long time, and she would not have left without him. It might be worth contacting his successor, though. The agreement was to leave that organization alone. Would he willingly help? 50% probability, depending on whether any of his people have been compromised by chaos. Which is highly likely, I said. Yes. The door chimed and Control pressed the palm plate on his desk. Marcus came in, and Control gestured to the chair beside me. Marcus seemed nervous but determined. I was glad to finally see him showing his strength. So, Marcus, what do you have for us? Said Control, getting down to business. We need UI help in order to distribute and activate the counter program, but Sunny said that we no longer had contacts with UI that we could trust. And you have a possibility? I asked. The younger man nodded. My old UI tradecraft instructor from the academy, William Evans IV. He was a mentor to me outside of class, and we kept in touch until you grabbed me. I looked him up when I was on New York Colony. He retired right before everything happened with Marcia and the New Harmonists. He was a staunch atheist and skeptic, so I can't see him being influenced by the New Harmonists. Besides, him retiring was odd. I always thought he'd leave UI in a body bag. I'm guessing he left in protest or under duress. Marcus shrugged. I don't know where he moved to, though. Control had a faraway look for a moment, then grinned. Geneva Colony. Fucking hell, seriously? Said Marcus. I chuckled. Well, that's predictable. Control laughed, and Marcus glared at me. I raised an eyebrow, and Marcus sighed. You won't be able to go, Marcus. You're compromised on Geneva. But... And no, you can't just stay on the S-Demon. Believe me when I say this, Marcus, that us old spies have our ways of recruiting other old spies. We like to show off for each other. Control chuckled at that. I rolled my eyes and continued. Marcus, I want you to coordinate with Musashi and come up with a distribution plan. The Admiral will most likely put his new apprentice on the task, said Sunny. Convenient, said Control. I'll send the message to Musashi. Pick it away, said Sunny. Marcus blinked. Right. I'll go back to working with Giannis, then. Yes, Marcus, you're dismissed. I'll let you know when I have your mentor. John? Yes, Marcus. Mr. Evans is a cranky old bastard, and he doesn't know you. Thank you, Marcus, I said, but I assure you he knows who I am. Marcus looked from me to Control, who just smiled at him and palmed open the office door. He shook his head and left. Great, said Control. Now we'll have 2 cranky old bastards on our ship. Good thing you don't leave the bridge much then, I said, standing up. Good evening, sir. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Good night, John, Control said, and I left his office. Bill. What? I said, waking from a sound sleep. I groped for my glasses, dropping the book I had been reading in the process. Fucking ow! I yelled as the book fell on my foot. Son of a bitch! I finally got my glasses on and realized what woke me. There was a stiff wind coming through the open window. The hell? There wasn't supposed to be any rain today, I thought. I stood up gingerly and picked up the errant book, replacing it on the table. I went over to the windows that looked out on the land behind the house. The sun was just about to rise, casting the whole landscape in a dark red-orange glow. I could feel that there was someone in the house. Pretty good, I thought. They disabled the alarms even. Turned around to see a balding, nondescript man wearing leather gloves sitting in my reading chair. I folded my arms. You're in my chair. You don't seem to have any other places to sit, the man said, folding his gloved hands in front of him. I would have thought that was a big fucking hint. The man gave a quiet laugh. Marcus was right. You are a cranky old bastard. Marcus? Marcus is dead. The man arched an eyebrow. Is he? You never found a body, did you? I opened my mouth, then closed it. The tumblers in my brain put it all together. Fucking Survey. Yes, he said. Well, where is he? At the library. Fucking spooks, I spat. I believe you are one yourself, although Marcus's training in tradecraft was abysmal. Would you get to the point, or are you planning on just continuing to sit in my chair and insult me? The man was infuriating. Well, at least I know you won't kill me out of spite, since I'm almost literally sitting on your pulse pistol. The man leaned forward. What do you know about the money behind the new harmonists and the other extremists? I raised my eyebrows. Not much, but we suspected someone had really deep pockets. We thought it was the Kozolezis from New York Colony, but they didn't have much money to throw around. We wondered if maybe Olka was in on it, but that man has a strange sense of integrity in his work. And he would never actually fund the type of activity that Kozolezi and others were running. We figured there was another actor, but they were slippery sons of bitches. We know what it is, and we have a solution, but unfortunately that means we need UI's help. We just don't have the person power to pull it off. Why come to me? Why not go straight to UI? The man raised an eyebrow. You're seriously asking that? You got a point. Especially not after that stunt you pulled. The man laughed. And I'm to believe you retired because you wanted to, right? Fucking spooks, I mumbled again. The man just laughed. I paced the living room. Something about what he said poked my brain again. Hang on. You said what, not who. Fuck. Yeah, I sighed. That meant I was already compromised. Well, shit. I assume you have some way of getting me out of here, then? The man nodded, finally standing up. If you'll come with me. Take the gloves off first. The man smiled. You'd already be dead if I was here to kill you, you know. Yes, well, call it a courtesy, I grumbled. He laughed, but took the gloves off, putting them in his jacket pocket, then raised his bare hands so I could see them. I gave a nod. Right, let's go. The man turned to the back door and walked out into the large field that was my backyard. Both moons were up, so I could see well enough, and there was nothing outside except a strong breeze in the red grass. He walked towards the middle of the field and stopped. There's nothing here, I said, annoyed. The man chuckled and tapped his wristcom. There was a shimmer in the air and the ramp came down. You were saying? Jesus Christ, you survey folks have all the good shit. Can I get one of these? If you're a good boy and come back with me to survey when we're done with this project, he said. Maybe. Well, I'm shit out of luck then. More likely than not, I'll be cleaning up after your mess. Again. The man shook his head again and started up the ramp. I followed. The ramp closed behind us, and a person wearing what looked like a samurai costume, complete with sword, was standing at the landing. Musashi warriors too? I'm touched. They're not here for you, he said. Oh? Why don't we find a place to strap in? Shocks are much better absorbed with the knees bent, he said, leading us down the hall. The warrior followed. Now you're quoting ancient movies at me, I said. Am I? Has anyone ever told you you're an asshole? The man chuckled again. Yes, frequently. I sighed as he palmed open the door into a room that had belted seating. The spook tapped his wristcom. Okay, Yi, get us out of here. Yes, sir, Yi answered. Okay, who the fuck are you anyway? Yes, proper introductions are in order now. He stood in front of me. Hello, Mr. Evans. My name is John Smith. He put out his hand. I froze. I looked at his hand, then looked back up at him and said, Fucking hell. I felt a little woozy. I think I'll take one of those chairs. Mr. Smith smiled, which turned my guts to ice, and said, Sean, if you could help Mr. Evans to his seat, I believe he's had a bit of a shock. Asshole, I grumbled. Again, yes, he said, strapping himself into a seat. The soldier helped me to my seat and tried to do the straps for me. Shoo, you barbarian, I'm not an invalid. The soldier stepped back and looked at Mr. Smith at a loss. I ignored the soldier and finished buckling in. You can go, Sean, we'll be fine, Mr. Smith said. The warrior left the room. So, what is this thing that's playing havoc with Unity? It's a computer program that was released by two brothers who just wanted to make a bit of extra money for their family. Instead, it mutated into what we now call chaos. In addition to playing the financial markets, it also plays politics to manipulate the said markets in its favor. We've tracked down the coder, and he is working with Marcus on creating the countermeasure. However, part of the solution requires that we hand-deliver the countermeasure, because if we don't, Chaos will neutralize it immediately. The other reason is that Chaos doesn't particularly care for Survey, and if it was all just Survey agents, even if we had enough people to get it to all the colonies and stations, most of them would probably end up dead. We've lost one prominent agent already, and we have some missing agents that Control thinks might be related. Okay, crazy spook-killing program, bad, got that. But why do you need more people? Because the countermeasure needs to be released on every Unity planet and station at approximately the same time. Who came up with that kind of batshit plan? Marcus and the AI. Which is why he told you to call me. Mr. Smith nodded. Right. The ship lurched a bit, and I took a deep breath. Okay, so here's the situation at UI right now, as far as I know. The new head is a politician, not a new harmonist, but not all that bright. She's a desk jockey and deals with the Senate, but isn't involved in operations. Who you need to talk to is the deputy director. He's the one director put in charge of cleaning out the new harmonist, and he did so with a vengeance. The only problem is that he's at Unity Hub. Well, we'll have to pull out the old Genovian Union shuttle then. What's my bank got to do with it? John grinned. Survey owns Genovian Union. Well, shit, I said. Mr. Smith tapped his wristcom again. Ye bring us near Unity Hub space. Have someone get the Genovian Union shuttle ready for departure. Yes, sir. I stared at John Smith. He was so ordinary for someone who scared the shit out of me and every other person in UI. Unlike other people in Unity, we knew not to fuck with Survey intelligence, and if John Smith came knocking on your door, you were probably fucked. The man raised an eyebrow at me. Well, if we're going to unfuck Unity, you might as well call me Bill, I said. You can call me John. I take it that's not your real name. Technically, no, but I've been John Smith for so long, I might as well be. Not sure what I'll do when I retire. Right. You're going to retire about as much as I did, I pointed out. He laughed. You got me there, Bill, he said, as the ship left Geneva. Chapter 38. John Smith. A tall, thin, brown-skinned man waited for us in Genovian Union's private docking bay lounge. Bill and I exited the docking tube, and the door shut behind us. Mr. Smith, welcome back to Unity Hub. Thank you, Evo. I trust your transfer from New York Station went well. Yes, sir. Excellent. I motioned to Bill. This is Mr. Evans. We have an appointment with some Unity officials. I assume our usual accommodations are available and secure? Ebo looked Bill over and smiled. I shook my head and sighed. Ebo almost pouted. Yes, sir. I inspected them myself just an hour ago. Thank you, Ebo. What time is it? Just coming up on 2100, sir. I turned to Bill. Tomorrow, then? He nodded. Ebo, can you make a reservation for 3 for tomorrow night at the top of the Hub restaurant? Private dining room. Ebo pulled out his tablet. Yes, sir. 2000? That'll be fine, Ebo, if you please. Ebo nodded and led us out of the docking bay to a waiting tram. The Genovian Union car merged into the rest of the tram traffic going towards the financial center of Unity Hub. How much can we talk about things while we're here? Asked Bill. Our quarters will be secure enough if we keep our connected devices off, but I suggest we keep details to a minimum. Bill sighed. I hate talking in innuendos and code. Yes, well, it can't be helped, I said. What's wrong with innuendos? Ebo chimed in, staring at Bill. I stared at him. Ebo, I said, with a warning in my voice. The man just gave a lazy grin. Bill raised his eyebrows and coughed. Well, I suppose some of your folks aren't terrified of you? Only the neurodivergent. The others have a level of healthy respect and fear they should. Ebo just smiled. We stayed quiet for the rest of the trip to the Genovian Union compound. He led us to the corporate accommodations, showed us to our suite, and left, giving one last look at Bill. I shook my head again. Do you have a room preference? I asked. The one that's bigger than yours, Bill said. I pointed to the room to the left. There's a materials printer in the bedroom. Don't worry about the cost. Really? Then I'll order something nice for myself. You should. It's only fair since we did take you from your nice retirement. Are you messaging him, or should I? I'll do it. He might ignore you if you invite him as whatever you are in Genovian Union. I nodded. Chief Legal Counsel. Really? He asked, surprised. I actually do have a Unity Law degree, I said. As if you couldn't be any scarier, you're also a lawyer? Fuck me. He turned to the bedroom. I'm going to take a shower and print some clothes. I'll sort out dinner for us, since I'm sure you're hungry by now. Bill waved as he walked into the bedroom. Just don't poison me, or you won't get very far. He closed the bedroom door. I chuckled to myself as I started up the printer. I went into the office the next morning just to keep up appearances. The first thing I did was approve the cancellation of loans for Mr. Gotti on Geneva Colony. It was only fair since we were responsible for losing one of the cars in his fleet in days of police harassment. I also proved a large donation to the Agricultural University on Schweitz since they lost one of their promising young scientists, and another large donation to the George Protection Fund. I'm becoming sentimental in my old age, I thought to myself as I left the office. Bill and Ebo were waiting for me at the tram stop. Did he answer? I asked. Yep, said Bill. He said he'd be in the office most of the day, but would happy to meet us for dinner. He should be heading out to lunch right about now. All the arrangements made, Ebo? I asked. Yes, sir, he said. Well, shall we? Bill, lead on, I said, and we got into the tram and made our way to the Mercado. We didn't speak in the public tram. None of us had any connected devices with us, and I hoped that we were just blips to chaos. The tram stopped and we got off, merging into the lunchtime crowd. Bill led us to a small cafe near the center of the Mercado. Predictable. I thought I taught him better than that, said Bill quietly, as he sped toward a brown-haired tan person in a dark blue suit. David, is that you? The man turned. Bill, wow, this is a surprise. Ebo hooked his arm around my elbow and turned me towards a cart with all sorts of knickknacks. I put on my long, suffering face as Ebo said, Oh, honey, look at these. Aren't they adorable? Yes, dear, I said with a sigh, earning a sympathetic look from the shopkeeper. Ebo was picking up objects and showing them to me, occasionally looking over my shoulder. He put 2 small garden gnome knickknacks together. Look, wouldn't these 2 be perfect for our hydroponic gardens? I looked at the 2 gnomes, then over Ebo's shoulder. 2 guards. Of course, dear, I said with a bored voice, bracing myself. I could still hear Bill talking to the director behind me. Ebo stood straight, folded his arms, and said loudly, Am I boring you, dear? Oh, I stammered, trying to look apologetic. That's it. I don't know why I agreed to marry you when you treat me like this. Ebo stormed off in a huff, gesturing as flamboyantly as possible. I turned to the shopkeeper, rolled my eyes as I handed him the gnomes, then went after Ebo. But Sugarplum, I'm sorry. It's just been a long day, and I yelled after him. Goodbye, he said with a wave as he ran into the dark-suited man standing near Bill and the deputy. Another blue-suited man was starting to walk towards his boss, and I steered myself towards him as I yelled, No, sweetie, please stop. I tried to run, but ran into the guard instead, who grunted, Oh, shit, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? The hell? The man said. Really, I'm so sorry, I frowned. I'm just trying to catch up with my fiancé who decided to be a bitch today, apparently. Ebo gasped and shoved the guard aside, much to the guard's surprise, and rounded on me. Oh, bitch am I? Well, then maybe you should have proposed to someone else. Maybe I should have. Ebo gave a screech. My mother was right about you. What's that supposed to mean? I said, clinging to the guard and making as if to partially hide behind him. She said you were just marrying me for my money, and right now I think she's quite right. He looked at me and the guard. I suppose you're going to leave me for this hunk of man flesh, since I'm obviously not good enough for you. Now, sweetie, that's not true. I ran into him trying to get to you, see? Yeah, he ran into me just now, said the guard. Ebo glared daggers at the man, and the guard recoiled. You see, I was coming after you. Come on, baby. Let's go home and talk about this, okay? I don't know, said Ebo, folding his arms. I let go of the guard and made my way slowly to Ebo. I could see that Bill and the deputy had disappeared. I took one of Ebo's hands. Please, darling, let's just go home and talk about it, okay? I do love you, darling. Please, can we just go home? Fine, but I'm not promising anything, he said, and started walking fast towards the tram station. I turned toward the guard, who was still a bit stunned, and shrugged. Good luck, he said. I'm gonna need it, I said with a sigh as I followed after Ebo. We took one of the trams to the docking area, with Ebo still pretending to be mad, sitting with his arms and legs crossed, bouncing his leg up and down. I sat down across from him, trying to look like the contrite fiancé. We got out at the station closest to the Genovian Union private dock. The docking tube was already extended as I palmed the airlock open. Ebo went in ahead of me. "Jesus Christ, you two," said Bill. "Who the hell is this?" said the deputy director. "And what the fuck is going on here?" "I'll close the airlock, Ebo," I said. The other man nodded as he got into the pilot's seat. I secured the airlock and went over to the deputy. "Hello, Deputy Director Vergara. I'm John Smith." John Smith from Survey," added Bill. The deputy went wide-eyed for a moment, then said, "Oh, fuck." Bill laughed. "Yeah, that's about right." "Well, if anyone was going to pull you off Geneva, it'd be him," Vergara said to Bill. Bill shrugged. The deputy eyed me as I sat down and strapped myself in. Ebo undocked the shuttle and started to move out to the jump zone. "I apologize for having to kidnap you," I said. Bill grunted in disbelief. "But we have a problem that requires your help. We can't talk about it on Unity Hub because the station's been compromised." "Wait, what? You want to ask for my help after that stunt your ambassador, or should I say agent, pulled?" I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, for fuck's sake, David, they did you a goddamn favor. Miller was a shithead and a fanatic, and you know it. Has your new office gone to your head and made you thick?" Bill said. Vergara frowned, then relented. "Yeah, well, I suppose we do owe you one for that. I should probably send a message to give them the all clear so they don't turn Unity Hub upside down." "Ebo?" I asked. Ebo opened a compartment near him and pulled out a tablet. He pushed it gently towards me. I grabbed it and handed it over to the deputy. "It's secure," I said. "Right," he said. He tapped out his message, sent it, and handed the tablet back to me. I took my picket out of my suit pocket and put the picket on the screen. "Wipe," I said. The picket buzzed for a moment, then chimed, and the tablet went dead. The deputy looked impressed in spite of himself. "Those are useful." "Don't ask, David," Bill said. "They don't share the good toys." "Well, we might be able to consider some sort of tech exchange for your help," I offered. "I'd take it if I were you. John Smith isn't usually this nice," said Ebo from the pilot seat. "Ebo," I said again with a warning note. Ebo laughed and said, "Yes, dear." I sighed. Bill started snickering. "He's an asshole, David, but he's my kind of asshole." "All right," the deputy said. "I'm listening." Chapter 39. Marcus. Yanis was engrossed in the mathematics that Sonny had requested for changing the original code in order to create the counterprogram. It was strange seeing him move his whole upper body or answer the occasional question Sonny asked him directly in his head. The muscle coordination wasn't completely there, but Yanis said the doctors assured him it would improve as he continued with the physical therapy. I was strangely reassured that he decided to do the full bots. Felt like the least that Survey could do for him, considering that we uprooted his entire family and brought the world crashing down on them. Yanis would say that he brought it on his family, and part of me didn't disagree, but I felt I should have been able to figure out chaos without disturbing his life. I sighed at the thought. "You okay over there, Marcus?" said Yanis. Just my usual mental self-flagellation," I said. He gave a sympathetic grin. "How about instead of doing that, you come and check this?" "Sure," I said, and went over to the desk. Yanis moved his chair back and tried to move a regular chair over for me, but then his right arm decided to spasm, making him drop the chair. I tried to catch it before it fell, but a part of the chair landed on his foot. Ow, he said. Then his eyes widened. He started laughing and said, fucking ow! I set the chair upright. You felt that? Yeah, holy shit. He laughed again. I hate to dampen your joy, but the math still needs checking, said Sonny. I smiled and sat down. Giannis went over to the food printer and dialed in a nutrition shake, chuckling to himself. He finished his shake and went back for some cookies by the time I had double-checked his work. I think this is as done as we can make it. Sonny? Inserting into the code. Executing in sandbox. Program functional. Terminates on schedule. Yes! Said Giannis. Oh, thank God, I exclaimed. So I guess now we try it on the chaos code from the seed data? Executing, said Sonny, anticipating my question. The seconds that it took for Sonny to execute the code seemed like an eternity. Success, the AI said. Data started to scroll on the desk screen. Sure enough, the countermeasure was outcompeting the original code and started to terminate the older versions. Giannis let out a cheer and I hugged him. That sounds like we have a functional countermeasure, said a voice from the lab door. I looked up and saw Mr. Smith with Mr. Evans, my old mentor, and another man. Yes, we just got it working. I have verified it, and I am now producing the data keys. Joe Public will do the quality assurance on them. They should be ready in 24 hours. Good timing, Mr. Evans said. It's good to see you, sir, I said. Have we met before? He asked. I put my hand to my face. Oh, right. It's Marcus Roner, sir. You sound like him, but you don't look like him, he said. He's been surgically altered, Bill, said Mr. Smith. Mr. Evans narrowed his eyes. What's the most important rule in this business? Don't trust anyone, including yourself, I replied automatically. That's him, David, Bill said to the third man. The other man rolled his eyes. I know it's him, Bill. I recognize the voice. I was his former division director. Hopefully he'll forgive me for the assignment that got him, well, technically killed, the man replied. Mr. Vergara? I asked. He nodded. Well, to be honest, I thought it was a hazing assignment. Mr. Evans laughed, and Mr. Vergara grimaced. Oh, and this is Dr. Giannis Zimmerly, I said, motioning to Giannis. He created the original program, and we just finished writing the countermeasure with Sonny. Sonny? Said Mr. Vergara. Hello, Deputy Director. That would be me. Welcome aboard my ship, Sonny said. The two UI men gaped, and I tried really hard not to laugh. Giannis chuckled quietly. Mr. Smith ignored it and said, So, Marcus, can you give a rundown of your plan? Oh, yes, I said. Now that we have a successful countermeasure, we'll be copying it to data keys, which will need to be hand-carried to each colony and each station. The program will need to be released into a major data center on each colony and station at roughly the same time, preferably within a few hours, so that Chaos doesn't have a chance to counter it. The problem is that Survey alone doesn't have enough people, and we need to get the countermeasure in place without Chaos figuring it out. Mr. Vergara looked thoughtful. Then have our people actually deploy the program, and have your people deliver it. If your people are tourists, then they can do dead drops on stations in Dirtside. It's not going to be 100%, since we'll have to assume a certain number of your folks will stand out to this chaos. Even with legends, they'll be new and easy to spot. He looked at John. Not ideal, but probably the fastest way we can do this. John thought for a moment. Has Chaos blown any of your people? Not as far as I know, said Vergara. But we also haven't been actively looking for Chaos since the gutting of the Senate. But the code has been running for 15 years, Giannis said quietly. The three spy masters turned to Giannis, who shrank into his chair. Oh, fuck, said Bill, turning away and swearing to himself. To be fair, Chaos manipulated Giannis too, as he didn't detect that anything was wrong with it until a few months ago, I said. It's not that, Marcus. There was a shuttle accident just after you disappeared. The director and deputy were killed, putting Miller in their place, Vergara said. It could have been the new harmonist, though. Miller was recruiting as soon as he started in UI, said Evans. Yes, but they shouldn't have been on the same shuttle together, nor should their whereabouts have been known at the time, even by Miller. The deputy frowned. Also, there's been several unexplained disappearances of agents over the years. Not enough at any one time to cause the alarm, but looking back on it now, more than there should have been. I never meant for any of this to happen, said Giannis quietly, looking crushed. Marcus, Giannis, are you finished with the coding? Asked Mr. Smith. Yes, I said. And then take some time off. Giannis, I will talk to you later about your options now that you've started your treatment and your part in this is essentially over. Marcus, take the evening off and I'll see you in the morning to coordinate with Musashi. Yes, sir. I took the hint and grabbed the handles of Giannis's chair and we steered him out of the room. Giannis didn't argue until he realized we were heading to the med bay. Why are we going to med bay? I'm taking you there to get your foot looked at just in case. Right. I'm usually pretty careful about things like that, but I think the treatments are throwing me off. Also, my arm still spasms. They tell me it's the nerves getting used to getting signals again. He sighed. I suppose I should be extra careful. Not a bad idea, but I'm guessing that sigh wasn't entirely about your foot? Giannis nodded. Some days I understand why Kai did what he did. I stopped pushing the chair. You're not... No, he said quickly. But it's hard when faced with the reality of what my program did. He sighed again. I feel like I'm getting off easy. I started pushing again, relieved. Easy? You and your family have been completely uprooted and you yourself won't be able to go back to Geneva ever? Yeah, but what do I do now? What does my family do now? He asked. I don't know, I replied, although Mr. Smith just said he wanted to talk to you about that. Giannis nodded. I steered him into the med bay, where the doctors and nurses greeted us, and Giannis explained why he was there. I'll catch you later, Marcus. I happen to remember hearing John give you the night off. Go see Blake and celebrate, he said, and the nurse wheeled him away. I waited for a moment, then turned and walked to the servants' district. You have been listening to Tales from Flat Space. If you want to support me in my writing, there are many ways to do it. Share this podcast, follow me on my Twitch channel, or buy my books. All you have to do is go to revcheetapon.net and click on the relevant links. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time.